Everybody.
All right, here we go. All right, guys, looks like we're live here. I believe we're live. See if I can catch up. Are we live? Are we live? Yes, we're live.
Everybody.
Perfect.
Ask everybody to make their way to their seats.
You have to pay extra for air conditioning.
They're supposed to turn it on. So
Yeah.
It's supposed to be on. Turn it on.
Throwing us a grand for the day. No air, whatever.
Yeah.
So the answer is no.
Yes, yes, it's gonna happen.
Oh, yes, it's
Play the song. They don't hear anything. Thanks everybody so much for being here. My name is Maggie. Thank you all for being here. I want to do a quick note of housekeeping. This wonderful gathering is being live streamed, and so we're going to ask that everybody just be very respectful of sound and side chatter. And we're so grateful to have Marcus, Richardson, and the entire Hash Church community live with us from around the world. They were all very dear people and a very dear community to Wade. My name is Maggie. It is an absolute honor to be here. Wade Laughter, celebrating his life and the person he was. We're going to start with a brief song that our beloved friend Gary Baker compiled for Wade. We're going to try that song later. We're going to have Swami lead us in a brief grounding. Thank you so much.
One of the things traditionally we do in gatherings is to start out with a poem or three poems, trying to get us all on the same wavelength. And Om, as you know, traditionally is actually three letters, A, U, M. So traditionally it's Om. But what we're going to do in the process is create a sound, a chord of the united voices of all of us. And this will also unite our voices with all the voices that are chanting Om anywhere in the world right at this moment. And also all the voices that ever have chanted Om. So we create a universal vibration here with a note that will never be created again, because we never have this group of people together in this place. So the vibration of Om, just find your own note, whatever it is, that note and that vibration. And sometimes if people want to say Amen instead of Om, or Hum, any way of chiming in is something that is your vibration. You'll create a sound in 3 times. So take a breath. And the sound travels into an infinity of vibration throughout the cosmos. And we welcome Wade to be here with all of us in spirit, and all of your spirits to share in this celebration. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to start today with a conversation, and for all of you that knew Wade loved to talk. I just want to say before we begin that conversation that we all here know that Wade was an extraordinary human. I personally literally saw and felt Wade changed people's lives. And he changed hearts and minds, and he showed us that that is possible through dialogue, through compassion, and through deep listening. And he was so good at those things, and it moved mountains. And I can only hope that all of us will carry that torch and continue to do those things on his behalf. It is my deep pleasure to introduce Etienne Fontaine, dear friend of Wade's from the Veterans Action Council, where Wade was an active member. He is going to guide a wonderful conversation with some of Wade's dearest people in his life. And I would love for you to come up and facilitate that and introduce the others. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. My name is Etienne Fontaine. I'm going to sit down because I have neuropathy. I am a Desert Storm veteran, and I came to cannabis many moons ago. And Wade joined our organization. So I'm going to call up John Barrett, Smalley, Forrest Lee, Eleanor Prince, Diana Gammon, and Christine Nevedal, if they're here. We have seats up here for each one of you to please come up. I'm going to introduce myself, and then with the other mic, you're going to introduce yourselves, and then we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to ask some questions so that you're aware. Hello, everybody on the webs. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Marcus, and everybody in the Ash Church community for joining us today. So I'm going to start off with just a statement. Good afternoon. We're gathered here to honor, celebrate, and remember our dear friend, comrade, sailor, healer, and cannabis pioneer, Wade Laughter. Wade was a multifaceted individual, a cultivator of both plants and people, a sailor, a scientist of spirit and soil, and most of all, a deeply compassionate soul who believed in access, equity, and healing for all. Today, we're joined by people who knew Wade in different spheres of his life, from advocacy and medicine to sailing and friendship. Each one of us carries a piece of his story, and as we share them today, we'll try to weave together a full picture of the remarkable life that Wade lived. We're going to try and keep this as organic as possible, just like Wade would have wanted. So let's dive in. Just a quick introduction for myself. I own and operate Berkeley Patients Group, one of the oldest medical cannabis dispensaries in the country. And I have heard the legend of Wade, and needless to say, regarding the legend of Harlequin that has touched so many lives around the world. He came into my sphere and to the point where the veterans organization that we have members around the world, may not know that Wade was a Navy veteran. And he came to us because he said, I don't really talk about that I was a veteran or that I was in the military. For the fact that he wasn't very proud of it. And I understand that. I fought in a war over oil, and I have my own realities I have had to come to terms with that all of us who serve have. But Wade joined us, and alongside of us, he helped us shape policy. We work not only at the local, state level, we work at the national and international level. And I will speak further on that later on. So that is just who I am. Next will be Mr. John Barron. If you could grab the other mic up there, we only have 2 mics to pass around, so we're going to kind of keep this in pieces. So John, introduce yourself to everybody here. And how did you come to know Wade? And then when you're done there, I'll have some questions.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to see all these people here today. Ronald Wade. He was a dear friend of mine. And I knew him for 3 decades or so, something like that. I'm a member of the Bayview Boat Club. And it was a rather unique institution. It's not a yacht club, it's a boat club. We have a older sort of funny clubhouse on San Francisco Bay. And they showed up around 1997 or 98. And once they joined the club, I had already been a member for 12 or 14 years. And he fit right in with us all. He was terrific. He never really, he had small boats, but he never owned a keel boat. He was a smart man. That was a smart thing to do. So he was there on other people's boats. On mine and 2 or 3 others cruising on San Francisco Bay. But we also have racing, YRA, Yacht Racing Association in San Francisco. And he was quite a competitor actually on the race course. He was steered, navigation, he did forward, which was tricky. You really got to know what you're doing is rather dangerous. And you can't have a boat without being a boat. They always need one. And Wade was very safely working on the boats. And we put some diggings, some whitehall boats. Whitehall boats are about 16 or 17 feet long. And it's a rowing boat. And it used to be hundreds of them on San Francisco Bay 150 years ago, but you don't see them much anymore. But we built several, and actually we entered into a boat building competition where no power tools, all hand tools, limited materials, 2 hours to build a boat and make it seaworthy. And when the Coast Guard team fell and the boat sank, and it's the same thing with the Boy Scout team too. The Indian Boy Scout prevailed and we won first place. That was in Florida Park, San Francisco, at High Street Pier, was the rules of the room. Anyway, we have what we call the Wharf Rat program. And the Wharf Rats are the sons and daughters of the members. Maybe they're 6 or 7, 8 years old, up to 14 or 15. And really jumped into the warfare program and did a tremendous job. We had, we still have sailing instruction for the youth sailing program. But then for the younger ones, we also have functions at holidays throughout the year, the Christmas tree and the Easter bunny visits to the children on Easter and Fourth of July, of course, all that kind of stuff. And Wade was instrumental with the warfare program. They really loved him, and you can tell that he worked really well with children and loved children also. The very much love is still going strong, but we are at a loss because we have such a dedicated and talented member. We're glad to. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That's very special. Next up will be Swan. Please introduce yourself. So not everybody knows who we are. So introduce yourself and how did you come to know?
Well, it's interesting because John just called me by my name before I was sworn. It's hard to explain what the boat club is in San Francisco. It's the old boys. It's the South Market. It's the trail hill. It's like it's funky and it's true and it's real. And I was never a member because I was in North Beach. And it was a different kind of thing, right? But I hung out there and I had a lot of friends there, Jack Wiggler, you know, guys and Ted and so on. So it was real old world San Francisco. It's hard for anyone to quite imagine that if you weren't there. But I want to tell you, I think I've suspected that there's an old world group in Nevada City as well. And so I think you kind of maybe know what the feeling was. And there's one thing about I imagine a lot of people here are probably the black sheep in their family, you know? And that's one of the things that keeps a lot of us in the cannabis community sort of together on a very deep level. And so, you know, Wade was one of those people who was like, you know, a black sheep in the family, and yet found his community in several different ways, because the way he became a part of the community in the boat club in the city, that's the way he became part of the community up here in Nevada City and all of the community. And so, and also in the wider cannabis community. Always dedicated to what was really happening. So I didn't really know Wade at that time, because when he came, he said 96 or something like that. I knew the other older people. That's by that time I was that was at home when I came out of that Yeah, so at that point, was Wade for students in the system boat club. I was already living mostly in India at that time. But I knew Wade also, and interesting, I knew Wade before, and I knew Monica before they knew each other. So from several places, because doing meetings here.
Thank you.
So when I first met Wade, he was in he was probably growing his
Everything up there.
Carry on, Swami.
Stand up, that would help.
Okay.
But anyway, Wade was involved in married to a woman, Anna, and she also knew the people from the boat club, and also was involved in hashish, shall we say, in various other ways in those days, which was more of an international way to be involved in hashish. And so Wade then also was growing indoors in the city, and there was all these, what do you call them, deals that went down, is that what we used to say? And so Wade was very much involved with that, but he also was a gearhead. You know, about Wade, he was in the diesel cars, and he had all this equipment. He just loved this. He had this souped up Volkswagen Bug that was like this the world thing is so, and also I found out on the Zoom a couple weeks ago that I'm drove the green tourist across the country down to Mexico and he was also the guy that had prepared initially and so on. So and that's a whole other kind of story about the green tourist was part of the whole traveling of the community all over the world. But also a variation that went all the way through London, so it kept me in the hall, right? So then, Wade also got directly involved in the Dolo community, which was another one of those hashish communities. So I happen to be involved in also because of the second wife and the second son and so on. And then there's the India crowd and so on. So all of that is kind of going through. Well, okay, this is anyway. So then Wade and I never really got to know each other until at a certain point when he and separated and all of that marriage that was changed went another way. And then he met Monica. And I had known Monica through the side change movement, which is another branch of the house, so to say. Because the side change movement smokes an awful lot of cylinders with tobacco and hat. Senator in India, and also the whole branch happened up in the United States, and was mostly under the inspiration of Bill Gill. She says, well, the DDP's knowing the whole I'm trying, right? So anyway, that was so I knew Monica in the hash side trans music movement, and we went to a lot of artists and did a lot of song. And then I can't exactly remember how you and Wade actually really met, but it was somehow in that. And then when they decided to get married, which was like this great celebration, I had the honor to perform the marriage up at some mountains in the casino. But now over the time, then one of the things that he was growing in San Francisco in a warehouse in New Orleans. And he did this experiment where he actually wanted to somehow connect the indoor grow with the outdoors. So he put a ground wire, copper ground wire in the bed, right, and ran it outside and with a ground pipe in the ground. And then had another bed right next to it that didn't have the ground wire. He wanted to connect his indoor plants with the magnetism and energy of the earth with this copper wire. And lo and behold, the plants did better. They were very distinctly different from the ones without the ground wire. And then shortly after that, he said, Swami, I need to get away. So he came up to our ranch at Turtle Creek and he spent about a couple of weeks up there, totally spaced out and so on. And right after that, they moved up to Nevada City. They got their little farm. And so it was kind of like a miniature ranch like I had. And that was the big change, I think, that happened. Now he's growing in the soil. He doesn't have copper wire. He's growing in the soil. And all of a sudden, he saw this connection between him and the plants and the soil and everything. And then from the hashish into the concentrates, and then from the concentrates into the medicine. And I really think that he achieved his full potential, his full destiny, the full thing his life was really all about through all these other turns and ways and this and that's the other thing. When he finally got here, he could grow in the soil here and make his medicine. And that's how then he became all of yours, right? Because he was then belonged to all of you, and he served all of you. And it was this thing. And we would talk from time to time because literally, we would go deep into the weeds. And we would just push each other and talk and so on about cannabis and cannabinoids and flavorants and aromatics and all of these things about growing techniques and so on and so forth. And then at the end, we started talking about a different level of cannabis and the spirituality in the plant. And we know that Wade was very much influenced by Buddhist thinking and the Buddhist cycle of life and karma and things like that. So we would talk about that. But at the very end, I'm going to end up right here. At the very end, we started talking about pain, right? Because pain is what was all about this countless teachers and so on and so forth. And I said, well, the first thing you want to remember about pain is that it's a signal. Pain is not what's wrong with you. Pain is telling you that something is out of balance, something is wrong. Then our job was to find it and work toward it and find the solution and the source. And he said at one point, he said, Swami, I think I had such good product was so much pain relieving quality that I ignored the process that was happening in my spine and my body. That the cannabis was so effective at covering the symptoms that it was a way to ignore the symptoms. And the reason being that you could then ignore the source. So I think one of the things that I want to say that I think Wade was wanting me to say to people, cannabis is wonderful for alleviating the pain, but don't let it mask or stop your search for what is really at the source of that pain and trying to restore the balance that is that. And how you restore the balance is, of course, what the men worked on very scientifically with dosages and portions and so on. But it's a total lifestyle that's involved as well. If you really want to heal, you have to change your diet. And then you use cannabis in conjunction with your diet. You have to change your physical action, your way in the world. And so those are all ways in which now Wade was giving us a higher message. Okay, it's great for relieving pain. But don't forget that we need to get to what is causing that pain and make changes to make that really happen and make the healing really begin from the inside. And instead, we know that the full extract of the full plant, not isolating parts of it, but using the whole plant, because with 1,000 compounds in cannabis, all of them are making their change. All of them are making their energy. And when people call it the entourage effect, but I actually like the word the symphonic effect. 1,000 compounds, all working, all activating. It's a symphony. You tune your body to that symphony of the medicine and the compounds coming from the earth, coming from the environment, coming from the love of the people who make it. And that symphony is what will be healing you. And the conductor of that symphony is the Holy Spirit of cannabis. The Holy Spirit of cannabis. We have a goddess out in the lobby. That's the goddess of cannabis, Ganjama. She's there to help us, to heal us, to party with us, to show us the way, to indicate the real way that cannabis heals is through the spiritual elements in the molecules itself. So thank you all for being here. Wade continues to teach us, shows us how marijuana is way more than just a couple of smokes after breakfast or whatever. Oh, after breakfast, after lunch, after dinner, all and so on. So anyway, thank you all for being here.
Up next will be Diana.
Hi everyone, my name is Diana Gamzon. I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada County Cannabis Alliance. And we are going into our 10th year as an organization, and Wade has been there since day one. He took over running as board seat. Marco was one of our founding board members, and then Wade became a board member and was with us for 5 years now. Wade also was the chair of our compassion committee. Our compassion committee worked within our licensed cannabis industry here in Nevada County to move donated cannabis grown by our local cannabis farmers, create local products, and then have it dispensed for free at Elevation, our local dispensary. That was so important to Wade, our compassion program, and he brought leadership, he brought new relationships to that program. He had outreach to Hospice of the Foothills, to our local hospital, to various cancer and veteran support groups. It was just so important that those who needed cannabis had access to cannabis. And so that's a really just huge value that not only he brought to our community, but to our organization. Wade was also a member of our policy committee for about 9 years. He participated in our weekly political strategy committee meetings up until about 2 to 3 months before he left us. And the biggest value, there's so many ways that Wade has impacted all of our lives. And in terms of advocacy, Wade was a fierce advocate, a passionate advocate, and it all came from such a compassionate place. And those that have walked alongside of him in that political arena know that he was absolutely just so incredibly passionate and believed in what he was fighting for: equality for small farmers, justice, affordability and availability of cannabis. And he did it in a way that I think taught me so much. His mentorship and his leadership taught me so much as within my position at the Cannabis Alliance. But it was one we work with everybody. We work with whether it's an elected official or a stakeholder or somebody who may have opposing views, we all work together. We're all in this together. And I've seen him bridge so many gaps here in our community through education, and just through a human level, getting to know somebody. And Wade just brought it back down to the basics of what it means to work through a sometimes divisive issue. We would not be where we are in Nevada County with the relationships that we have with our county, with our local government, with various community nonprofits, if it was not for Wade building such significant relationships and educating people about the essence of cannabis, the benefits of cannabis. So, is that better?
No, you were doing great.
Good, we're good?
We're
good? Okay. Okay, perfect. And so I will forever be grateful to Wade for his impact and his legacy that he has left on our organization and on our community. Wade was recently, about 8 months ago, recognized by our board of supervisors at a board meeting for his impact in Nevada County. There was a standing ovation at that board of supervisors meeting for Wade, and it was just an incredible moment. So Wade really has left a profound impact on our community.
Hi, my name is Eleanor Coombs. I run an organization called WeedWorks, which is a genetic organization started in California almost a decade ago. I'm a soft talker, so you might have to adjust. I'll try to be louder. And I run Candor Herbarium, which is a project that is exceptionally near and dear to my heart. And it's really the work that bonded Wade to myself in the early days. I met Wade, I think, week 3 of my journey here. I grew up in California, moved away, came back. So I was back in California, starting this business that a lot of people were really afraid of, doing genetics. And then running an herbarium, which is really about empowerment and legacy. And he just saw me and the work that we were doing in a way that has changed my life. And I know that that's my personal story, but I know that's many people's stories who sit in this room. And so that's why I'm here, because Wade is someone who can see you for who you are and what you need and being there. And so we did a lot of work in the science space. Most of our conversations would start with either farming or medical interactions with plants. And they would quickly turn into a discussion really of just plants in general. So that's really where our love language was talking about medicinal plants together. And I was exceptionally fortunate that I had a little bit of the hardships that become blessings, like periods of time where I really needed to be away from where I was living and travel. And I was always, a home was here for me at the farm. And I spent a lot of time there, and I feel like family in a way that has been just important. So thank you for letting me say what I'm here. It's both the science side and the very personal family connection to the marvelous person we all know and love.
Next will be Forrest Lee.
Hello, my name is Forrest, and boy, it's good to see all of you here today. I'll just introduce myself real quick since we have some questions. But I knew Wade from working together here in Nevada County, starting at the same time 10 years ago. He heard me speak at a board meeting, heard me chastise the board of supervisors, which we're known to do from time to time, when it's needed only. And hunted me down afterwards and said, we need to talk. As Wade has done many of us, I bet, after hearing us somewhere and then coming up and finding us later. That led to quite a few years of work together and a very, very close friendship over the years. Working specifically in the compassion field, starting and working on organizations, both public and not, catering toward children and adults, and not only making the network to start organizations like the Caldrius Network, which is one that was started for terminally and catastrophically ill children. And a lot of those organizations are folded into what is now the compassion program that Diana was talking about. But it allowed us to network with everybody and really advocate, work with our local officials to change some laws here at the state, and set up a network that we could teach to others to see if we could mitigate suffering of those who need it. And that's really where the group was, with Wade and myself. I guess I'll leave it with that until we get into the questions.
All right, thank you. Due to technical abilities, I'll be following around with the microphone, so please bear with me. One of our guests who was supposed to be on the panel, Fred Gardner, wasn't able to make it, but he sent a small message, and I wanted to read that aloud. When Harlequin was first identified as a CBD-rich strain, Wade was growing it in what I remember as a mobile home attached to a small house in Potrero Hill, Navy, Mississippi, 2008 or 2009. He was technically very skilled. He used to drive the green tortoise bus, the counterculture's alternative Greyhound. He made a decent wage because he would repair the bus when it broke down. All right, that's from Fred. Sorry, the rest of the message should not make it, but I wanted to pass that along. So we're going to kind of keep this organic, so I'm going to bring it down to John Barron. And so, John, of course, you met Wade at the Bayview Boat Club. So, what made Wade stand out amongst the other sailors?
Well, he showed up. Half the time that it's like sort of like running a business. If you're campaigning a boat in regattas, and you got to show up more than once or twice. The number 6 races in a regatta over days or weeks, whatever like that. And so if you commit to your position on the boat, then you got to be there. Otherwise, the boat can go. And Wade was always there. If he said he'd be there, he would be there. He would half the time bring sandwiches because the crew got was on the stomach, and after rolling around the buoys for an hour and a half or 2 hours, you get hungry. And he might bring the sleeve sometimes, but we saved it for at the after the race, not during the race. But he was always a good guy with conversation. He loved to talk. And he had so many stories. Living on the common in Oregon, or keeping like the green tortoise. Yeah, he would be on the bus, because he was on the bus, either on the bus or the off the bus. But he would keep those Detroit diesels going. And sometimes he would keep them going with baling wire and duct tape. But they were all no from 4 buses, and he kept them going, that kind of stuff. Commitment to his friends and his boat, his ship, and well, on the boats, it was normally allowed in the ghost area, but sometimes there's no wind, and you're sitting there like ducks. going on. And then Wade was very telling about, and his experiences, and then maybe his interpretations of the experience and how you could learn from a bad time. He was always optimistic. He's always something. Did you know?
We'll come back around and just ask everybody a series of questions. So next will be Diana. Diana, you and Wade were, of course, on the front lines together. Especially after Measure W, I came chair and of the Nevada County Cannabis Alliance. So what did that mean to you and what did that mean to him?
Oh, it was having Wade as chair of our board and guiding the direction of the Nevada County Cannabis Alliance it meant so much to our community, to our greater community, to our farmers. Wade had a way of really connecting with the farmers as a teacher, as a mentor. So many of our farmers that were either just starting to get into the licensed cannabis industry or those that were trying to improve their practices to learn regenerative or organic skills. Farmers were consistently going to Wade and going to the farm and visiting with him and learning best management practices and learning about compost. They love to talk about soil. Love to talk about soil. And so it was both very important to our community of farmers that were upping their game for the licensed cannabis industry. But then in terms of the front lines as it relates to our advocacy, he brought that sense of, like I talked about earlier, humanity, talking to people about understanding what it was about cannabis that they had questions about. What did they want to learn about cannabis? He would invite supervisors to his farm or other people in the community who may have not been, who are skeptical of cannabis. Like, come to my farm, see my cannabis, see how it's grown, let's talk about it. And that really set the tone of our advocacy. Our Cannabis Alliance advocacy was never trying to push our way and try to, get things done. I mean, well, sure, we had goals, we want to get stuff done. But it really led from a place of understanding and mutual respect. And that's what he brought when he was chair of our board and chair of the Compassion Committee and on our policy committee, engaged weekly in political strategy of how are we going to navigate this new law that may be coming down? How are we going to navigate equality? And that's the thing. He was so incredibly fiercely passionate about equality for all farmers, whether you were growing tomatoes or you were growing cannabis. And he would speak really fervently at supervisors meetings, but with so much love about making sure that our farmers here in Nevada County had a fair chance. And that's what he brought to his leadership at the Cannabis Alliance and through his advocacy.
Thank you so very much. That was absolutely beautiful and very touching. Next up will be Swami. Swami, of course, you knew Wade before Wade knew Monica. And there's this web of connection through cannabis and trance music, and even further back through your shared roots in early SO culture. Can you talk about how you first connected and how your bond deepened through the plant?
Well, I kind of mentioned that in my harangue in the beginning part, but it was, see, you all know that about the cannabis community, each in your own way. And it's something that for so long we had to be underground and it had to be secret, and there were code words, and like if I said to Mickey, did you bring the jacket? Well, that meant, did you have a joint with you? Stuff like that. And we all had to use these code words. And I sometimes like to compare it to the Harry Potter world of magicians, right? Because in the Harry Potter world, they were kind of interspersed with the regular society, but they were invisible as magicians, as wizards and so on, but they did work their magic. And I think that was one of the things that we had a secret community in the cannabis world. And we had secret ways to communicate, secret ways to share things, information, and so on. And that was a sort of magic brotherhood, sisterhood that we had. And you had to have sort of an introduction. You had to have someone who already was in the community in order to get in. Otherwise, you weren't in, because you couldn't just trust anybody, right? And how did we keep this going for so long? Because it was trust. It was trust between people looking you in the eye, giving you a handshake and said, I'm going to pay you next week, and you will next week. Right? And this was a way that we actually had an underground culture that honored one another and honored the honesty and the feeling of it. And back in the old days, we would say someone was ahead. What was that? Is that what ahead? Oh yeah, she's ahead, he's ahead. What does that mean? That means you explore other levels of consciousness through ingested substances or whatever means they were. And of course, we know there's a hierarchy of ingested substances. Some take you one way and some take you the other way. And so what Wade was always about is using the ingested substances to take you to that healing place, to that place in the center of who you were, to that place that actually opened you up to be with the community. You didn't have to be afraid anymore. So, yeah, well, and see, there's also the thing in the trans community, because the trans community, the music was loud, and we had to hide in warehouses. And there was a way that there's a party that's Saturday night, and it's going to be at this warehouse, but you didn't know where the warehouse was. You had to go to a secondary point, and you went to the secondary point, and that person thought knew you were cool, you get the real address, right? And then this would be an old warehouse somewhere in the flats of Berkeley. And it would be, in fact, one of them I remember we did, which was, it was one of the original warehouses for Amazon books when they were only books, right? And this was the shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves of old used books in this warehouse. And we went in with about 30 to 40 people. We transformed that place, put in fabrics and lights and music and a crazy thing. And all of a sudden, everybody's tripping on, what was it? And then we just, 24 hours later, everybody's now danced out into a higher level of consciousness. And that's how I knew Monica, right? And so then when she and Wade got together, it was like two halves of the San Francisco world meeting one another and coming together from the boat club and people who just, in the South Market, in the whole sort of warehouse district, Potrero Hill and so on. And, Potrero Hill is its own magic place with its own subculture. And I used to look at this place called The Farm on Army and Potrero, which is just a couple blocks from the boat club. And this was this whole group of people who really were the heart and soul of the art scene of San Francisco, and the boat club is where there was a poker game that went on for 30 years, right? The boat club, right? And I don't know if Wade was part of it, but many other people were parts of it and so on. And it was just, it was a place. And it wasn't my place, but every time I went there, I felt welcome because I was in that same scene, so to speak. And Wade was thinking one of the hearts of that scene. I didn't know about the world rat things with the kids. That's a great story about training the kids and so on. And you could see when he came up here, how many times he was connecting with a child and helping that child through their suffering, and then connecting with the parents of that child. And that's just a whole sort of way of connecting with the community through the youth. And it's always through the youth that we're going to carry forward. I'm not really answering your question, am I? No. But I do want to say one thing in terms of we are now in a place in our society where we have to keep sticking together. We have to share our love, we have to share our resources, we have to share our honesty and our ways of doing things. It's now more than ever. It's more important than ever that we connect and share and love. And yeah, that's what it's all about. And we know that Wade was so much a part of doing that. And I love what you said about the way you went to the Board of Supervisors in the county. Because when I went to the board of supervisors in Mendocino, I was chastising, as Forrest was saying, because do you guys realize that you have the best industry in the world right here and you're trying to kill it? Well, I don't know if that worked, but I felt that someone had to tell them that you guys, you have to recognize that and I always talked about Mendocino County because I'm very loyal to Mendocino County, right? But I always said, we have a reputation in Mendocino of being the best for weed in the world, right? And if we're any other product but cannabis, the board of supervisors would be giving us tax deductions and special zoning variances, and I'd be the president of the Chamber of Commerce and all these things, right? But they didn't understand that. And we have to realize they were against us from the very beginning. And all of us were so naive to think they would ever let us get away with it, transitioning from illegal to legal, right? But we're doing it, and some of us are still surviving, and we're all committed to making this plant available because the magic is in the tree. And cannabis is always teaching us. It's taught me how to grow things, taught me regenerative agriculture, it's taught me about community organizing, it's taught me about how to talk to the board of super. Cannabis keeps teaching us. And that's one of the things that Ray and I shared when we would have these conversations that would just go on and deep and deep. And Nikki and Mike, these guys are at it again, what's going on? And it was just really just constantly inspiring one another and pushing one another to go deeper into the plant and its magic. So that's what I get from the honor and the celebration of Wade's life and how he raised the level of consciousness about cannabis, we are all involved in raising that level. Each one of us raises the level of awareness about cannabis in the way you use it, in the way you celebrate it, in the way we share it. What I found since we stopped being in the legal cannabis business is so much more fun to give it away. It's so much more fun to give it away and share it and just be part of it. And it's just,
I just want to take a moment to say, if you're a grower, producer, seed manufacturer, seller, thank you. You're heroes. What you've done, what Wade and kept Wade going, and you really did it for you. Not many people stand up and make their voice be heard. And he was one that many of you rallied behind. So it's reflected by looking around and seeing every seat practically filled here. There's a lot of love and a lot of appreciation, and not many people can get that kind of pull except those that have given freely with love. So I'm honored to be here. Next up would be Eleanor. Eleanor, your connection with Wade is especially deep. He's your daughter's godfather. And you help preserve his cultivar's genetic legacy. So what does that mean to you?
Yeah, this is a topic that's super close to my heart and something that Wade really inspired me to keep going, even though it was really hard. It was about really diving into the specialness of the plants and the humans that have really gone above and beyond and through all kinds of hardship to steward those plants and take care of them, and then get that medicine to the people who actually need that medicine. So that's a journey that we really dove into with each other. And he was so inspiring to so many people. And that level really had a really great ability to take really complex ideas and concepts and make them not only accessible to everyone, but interesting to everyone, which is a huge skill, And he did that with the botany that I'm so excited about. And we had a really excellent time the first couple summers when we were still growing, vouchering all the plants in his garden. So we've done it multiple times. And the most special of those plants, I think, would be Harlequin, because it comes with such a beautiful story. And so those vouchers are in the Canada herbarium. And really the ability to continue to talk to other individuals that have really special plants, and their stories really need to be captured so we don't lose the immense amount of history and culture and work, quite frankly, that everyone in this room has in some way touched. That's what he did. He he did work physically and helped physically, but he also was an excellent cheerleader. And I know a lot of us need that a lot, is, someone to look at us and say, I see you, and talk some straight talk. Not always the nicest conversations, but always uplifting and helping you grow into the person he sees you can be. And so I think that's all I can actually say right now, and I know he's not for a lot of people, so lean into that. And I think my lesson is to really try to be that for other people in this room, because I got so much of that from him.
Thank you, that was beautiful addition. Next up will be Forrest. Forrest, you and Wade were from the heart of the Nevada movement, Nevada County movement here, both on the ground and in meetings. But it was compassion that truly tied you two together. It's nice to see you here, Silas. I've followed your story for many years, and to see you here warms my heart and soul. Can you talk about those early tax and regulate days and Wade's role in building bridges between growers and government?
Absolutely. Try to be as succinct as possible. Thank you all. How are we doing? Doing good? Good. I'm with you in this. It's something about the room, the warmth, the intense emotions. It's just really a special time. I'm really grateful to be here. So with that said, geez, where do we go to start with the tax and regulation in Nevada County? Look, what do I want to say about that? I might, as always, for those who met me, you might throw a curveball and take it in a different direction. But I'll try to bring this home. We're going to go more, but we'll get back to the Shire by the end of it. Right? I didn't see, and this pertains to how Wade and I meeting and how we went. It might sound contrary to some of the things we hear, but my relationship with my friend Wade was different in the sense that I never saw him as a cannabis person. Just as I was not a cannabis person. Just as I was educating myself and working with our board at the time, who it ended up going very well. I started with kind of how we met. It's not the good days, but they ended up going very well as we built those relationships. But cannabis was the situation we found ourselves in, not who we are. And I came to the advocacy of cannabis and cannabis medicine, I think in a very similar way to the way Wade did. Meaning, a lot of people are tested, they're given challenges in their life. And some of them go one direction, some of them go others. We all handle things the way we can. Wade was a farmer. He had a passion for organics and soil and life and the world that we knew. But I see his journey as the crux changing when he stumbled into a situation called Parliament. And he fell into that. He didn't plan that. He didn't manifest that. He was presented through the universe of coincidence and chance and opportunity when he came across a plant at a time when no one believed that there were compounds in these plants that could actually be medicinal and beneficial. He was present enough to recognize the potential within that, just hearing people's responses when they used it. So for those who aren't familiar with the story, he came across the plant, he ended up making a Parliament from a very early and influential medicinal plant in the work that families like mine did and others. But it was who Wade was that made that possible. It was the presence that you hear everyone talk about that made that possible. When his friends used this and said, well, it doesn't really get you high, but I have these other effects, he heard it. He was present enough. In our talks and my talks with Wade, I saw that as a pivotal moment in the change in his his direction, his compassion was always there. If it had been another situation, I could have seen Wade going in some other situation that was not cannabis related, if he had the power to help those who needed it. But it happened to be through this plan that he stumbled on. Just as my work in education, working with local officials, helping children and others, had nothing to do with cannabis until that was the route that was presented to me for me to put my energy and influence those around me, including my own son and family. So we met as I was coming to terms with something Wade had discovered a few years earlier. That chance had put us in this position of being able to recognize a need that others didn't see was real, and being present enough to know the type of death and suffering that we had a rare opportunity to try to impact and potentially alleviate for people that we'd never met. And when Wade pulled me aside after I spoke with the board of supervisors meeting, just trying to articulate the difference between nuisance grows and people whose lives depended on certain medicines. He pulled me aside real quick, took me to the table, and we talked, and we were right in the same place. And I had this energy that we needed to put somewhere. He had this passion that he had found a few years earlier. And we worked really well together because I was extremely analytical and driven, and dived heavily into the science because I felt I didn't have a lot of time working with my son. He had the people and knew the people, and all of a sudden we were off. And that work led to advocacy and led to the development of a few organizations. And for the sake of time, I'll say it led to being able to talk a lot of very important lessons. If I get a chance, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But yeah, that was that time. Then we ended up being successful. And I guess I'll say, since it had to do with tax regulation, then kind of what Diana hinted upon, we were successful, I think, because we were honest and open about the positives and negatives of the situation when it came specifically to cannabis in Nevada County. We understood the challenges that people who were afraid of what was happening in Nevada County felt, tried to separate the fears that were legitimate and the fears that were frankly not, because we all have those. And we tried to build relationships through honest conversation. And when it came down to it, I think people recognized that his heart, our heart in those efforts was coming from a place of wanting to have a net positive for the people in our community and our homes and our families. That was something that Wade and I really bonded in our work together with. I learned a lot from him on how to keep my patience when I was really stressed or times weren't going well. And I think a lot of the success could be held to the non-threatening nature of genuine openness. And that is something that if you've met Wade, you've experienced. He was there, he was open, he was who he was. There was no thought of other strategies behind it or manipulation. It was genuine openness. It was genuine concern. It was genuine need to help those who needed in a time where no one believed that what we were talking about was real. And yeah, that's how we came to work together.
Thank you for that. I've gone over time, but I have something I'd like to say. On behalf of the Veterans Action Council, I would like to acknowledge the profound impact that Wade made during his 4 years with us. Wade wasn't just a participant, he was a leader, quiet, steady, and always rooted in integrity. He had that rare ability to bring clarity to chaos, to offer truth without ego, and to remind us, especially those of us who've seen war, that healing is possible. That compassion is not weakness, but power. Wade understood the unique challenges in his face, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and he gave his time and his wisdom to help build systems of care, not judgment. We knew that cannabis was medicine. We also knew that love, dignity, and connection were medicine too. And he offered all those things freely to everyone around him. Monica, we see you. We feel this loss with you. Your partnership with Wade was one of mutual respect and shared vision, and that energy shaped everything he did. Please know that the ways he stands with you, not just today, but the months and years ahead. You are part of this circle always. Wade leaves behind a legacy that will continue to grow, just like the seeds he planted, the movements he helped nurture, and the lives he touched with quiet strength. We will miss his voice in our meetings, his thoughtful presence, his unwavering moral compass. We'll miss Wade, but we will carry him forward, and we will continue what we started with honor, with courage, and with heart. Rest easy, brother, and thank you for everything. Wade was a cultivator in every sense, of land and people, of relationships, of possibility. He planted seeds that grew into movements, friendships, and lives lived more fully. Thank you all for sharing pieces of him with us today. May we continue to grow what he started with the same care, grit, and heart. At this time, John Barron, please toll your bells.
Thank you all for these wonderful sharings. I'm going to welcome Wade's dear friend Sue Book, our District 4 and Advocacy Supervisor, got to share a prayer. And after that, we're going to have a beautiful original song by Wade's dear friend Brian Jones.
Lord, would not we have loved this conversation? This was so a time. Okay, I'm going to proceed. But anyway, I just want to tell you, it is so heartwarming to see this growth here for a man that was so very, very special. I still remember that first day, you know, everyone talked about how we saw you. And I remember that day on my front porch. I'm new as supervisor, right? And all this is going on, this kind of crazy world. And I probably was on the other side of the board at that time. He said, just let me come. And he came to Pin Valley into my space and sat there. It was supposed to be 15 minutes. We talked for 3.5 hours. I sat that. And it was in that moment we became friends because he saw me. And so I gotta say, that's probably gonna be always something so special with me. I got to spend that time and I'm with you too, Monica. So I could go on and on about Wade, but you guys all did it so beautifully and graciously. So today I just like to say a little prayer today over this service, if you don't mind. So please, Heavenly Father, we are here today with heavy hearts to remember and celebrate the life of a very special man, Wade Laughter. We thank you for the gift of his presence in our life, for the laughter, the love, and the memories that we all get to share. We ask your comfort and peace to surround us as we mourn his passing. May your Holy Spirit fill us with your love and remind us of the hope of eternal life. Help us to already remember Wade's kindness, generosity, and boy, that positive impact that he left on so many of us. And really the true impact he leaves here in our community and beyond. Lord, please lift Monica up as she starts this new chapter without her best friend and her partner. And we pray that you give her encouragement and peace as she goes through this, as only Wade would have wanted her to. We ask that we all give us the strength to carry on Wade's legacy of friendship, hope, encouragement, and healing. In all this we pray in your name. Amen.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, that was a good time for me.
Oh, there's a tradition with sailors. I think you've heard of standing watch on a ship or a boat, and you do your time, and the bells tell you what watch it is, whether it's nighttime, in the middle of the day, or something like that. Anyway, when the sailor passes away, he stands down from the watch and we ring 8 bells. The sailor is home from the sea. Rest in peace, William. Yeah. Wow, we can sure have said a lot of nice things about Wade. Sure had a lot of belief in all of y'all. And that's what me and I used to talk about. Sort of an unwavering belief in the strengths that each of us have. You know, we all have gifts, and it takes a little while for us to find them sometimes. But when we do, it seems to set us on a more meaningful course in life. So, without getting too deep, this song is well, we all do our best, because that's what we would always say. And when I was, Monica asked me to play a song, and I thought about it that night, I was deeply touched. It was an unbelievable honor. And I was like, what would I play? And the next morning I was out in the garden, and it was super peaceful and quiet, and I could see Wade smiling in my mind, and he's like, you got this. We all do our best. That's the name of this song, so I figured that's the song I should play it for him. That, you can hear that at all, I better. If we go just a little bit further, never know what I find. If you try and harder, give a little room of time. The sky will open and the rain will fall. There will be enough food for us all. It helps me, I help you. We all do our best, but you don't have to. I was climbing up a big building, but I was our beginning the room. Instead of building up an ivory tower, let's build a living room. And everybody will have a home. Even the people who like to roam. It helps me when I help you. We all do our best, even when we don't have to. Boy, sure got a lot louder.
Okay.
A little bit of sweat, with a little bit of pain. Even we lose a little bit, but we all stand a lot to gain. Cause then the walls will tumble down, the people will meet from town to town. It helps me, I help you. We all do our best, even when we don't have to. Anyway.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you so much, Sue. Thank you so much, Jonathan. We are gonna offer for just a brief amount of time, if there are members of the audience who would like to share any words. I would love for you to do that. Please come up. If people want to take seats, if they want to be sort of in one. Yeah. See if I can get through this without running. My name is Michelle, and this is my earth. This is my earth angel, Cameron. Cameron is 34 years old. He was born with multiple disabilities due to a virus I had when I was pregnant with him. We met Wade 10 years ago through a friend from Steep Hill in Berkeley, which was a testing lab for Cameron's cannabis. The doctors told me I was crazy, that I was going to start my cannabis, but it seemed so much better than cutting part of his brain out, which is what they wanted to do. Cameron was on 14 pharmaceuticals at one time to try to control his epilepsy, and nothing worked. And so I decided to do my own research and found out that cannabis was going to be given a shot. I called Wade my warrior because once I met him, there was this huge connection. He saw Cameron for more than he really was. Cameron can't talk, he can't walk, he has a heart of gold in his soul, and he deserves to be here just like anyone else. The doctors look at Cameron's progress and they have nothing to say but, oh my God, keep doing what you're doing. Cameron's on a ton of supplements. Like I said, he was only on one pharmaceutical, which is Lamictal, which is a seizure med. Very small amount. Wade was in awe. Wade was just totally blown away, and I'm sure you guys have heard about Cameron without him saying Cameron's name, because he told everybody his story. He was trying to protect us from, just our privacy. But I wanted to be here today on behalf of Cameron and my family. Monica, I love you so much. And Wade will always be a part of my life. He's always been in my prayers. And when I didn't hear from him, I knew something had happened. Because we were always in touch with each other. So thank you, everybody. God bless.
Hi there, my name's Akira. I'm Monica. so tricky to figure out where to start, so I guess I'm just gonna start with this part. I've done some shamanic healing, and one of the things that I'm able to do is to journey. And, so after Wade passed, I did a journey to look for him. And I found him immediately. And he was just so happy, so free, and sent blessings. So I just wanted to say how fun that was. And I wanted to teach you his spiritual song that we sang together. And you might already know it. So I thought we'd start with this half of the room. And then once they get started, we'll go with this side of the room. And we'll just bring Wade in with one of his favorite spiritual songs. And you might already know it. It's called Row, 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 Row. So if we could, Jonathan's here to confirm I'm crazy. All right, so let's begin. If you're willing, raise your hand if you're willing. Okay, cool. So we're gonna start with this side, and then once you get started, then we'll move to this side. Are you ready? Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. All right. I was but a dream, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, I was but a dream. Come on, people. Let's start this down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Thank you. So, my partner had fourth stage kidney cancer, and that coincided also with this ordinance issue in Nevada County. And so I went to this place, was it the Haven?
The Haven.
Okay. So, I went down there to, help with the No on W campaign, which was the ordinance campaign. And we sat around in the circle, and just as an aside, I'm not really a pot person. And I was sitting in the circle, and I had to say out loud, I was a grower. And I was scared to death to say I was a grower in public. I was trying to help my partner with fourth stage kidney cancer. And that's where I met Wade. And we had a fabulous campaign, and we worked hard to get people on board with the No on W campaign. I think Jonathan was a part of that too. Honey, Jonathan? And so anyway, from there we became activists together, and that's where I met Wade. And I've had some wonderful conversations with him, and some wonderful singing, and a wonderful time. One of my favorite times with him was when we busted out of the hospital. He was in his bed, and he had a pastry in his pocket, and then we hospital. Because there was some kind of disagreement about his treatment, and I think we were getting kicked out, I wasn't sure. But it felt like a cake, like we were escaping, and he comes out this road, and we get in the car, and he drives away with the pastry. And I had a chance to have a lot of conversations with Wade, and I'm kind of more of a black person than I was before I met Wade. But anyway, thank you, Wade, and thank you all.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brad Peace-Simmer. I'm probably one of the odd ones who knew Wade because I've still never smoked cannabis in my life. But unfortunately, in 2000, I was married to a woman who lived in Nevada City. I was the director of operations for a little company in Thailand. And she called me and said,
oh, by the way, I have cancer. 2 minutes later, I walked into personnel and said, I'm done. Left Thailand, came back here full time, took care of Mary until she passed 10 months later. But the odd thing is that she was so sick. She went from being about 140 pounds down to 86 pounds in 6 months. And I remember her with her head on my lap, just crying in pain. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't eat anything. She couldn't drink anything without getting sick. And her sister said, you need to give her some pot. And I went, okay, is there a pot store I can go to? Because I was clueless. Well, 2 days later, priority mailbox shows up in our mailbox and open it up, and there's the rest of her brownies in there and an ounce of pot. And my dad's a former state circuit court judge. Now, that didn't go over real well in my book, and I was on the phone yelling at her, and she said, I'll stop being just a baby and make the damn brownies, and hung up on me, which pissed me off to no end. But I gave her the brownies, and I gave one to Mare, and for the next 18 hours straight, she had her head in my lap asleep. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life. And I get to do a lot of fun stuff in the community, and I sit down a lot of times, and with my engineering kind of background, I sit down and go like, and this is illegal, why? And at that point in time, I became a pretty big advocate for medical cannabis in the community. Big enough to 10 years ago to the day and the month, well, where our sheriff's department showed up at my house. That was an interesting interlude. I ended up getting arrested. At that time, I was also working for Aerojet, Lawrence Livermore Labs, Boeing, doing a lot of carbon fiber wing design. They had a certain gentleman in the sheriff's department who managed to call these people and ask them, because I was actually cultivating cannabis for a number of other sick people in our community. I had an agricultural engineering master's. And so sheriff's department shows up at my house. I obviously have some plans. And so I got arrested for felony cultivation with intent to distribute by our sheriff because he found a number of texts on my cell phone where I was selling organic breast-fed beef for somebody. And he said, it's obvious here that you're selling pot to people. And because I had plants at my house, I got charged with a class 1 felony as well as obstruction. Okay. 10 months later, and after me spending $80,000 in legal costs, the charges were dropped the day before they were going to pick a jury. And how do I want to say it? It pissed me off. So I personally went and registered 3,500 people to vote. We had a number of other people that, helped get people registered to vote. But Wade was an essential part of every one of these activities, with keeping me safe, with helping me do the cultivation, with all of these activities. I would go see Wade, the Labor Party, quite often, and I still get to do a lot of fun stuff in the community now. But it was Wade who was the one who would stand behind me and say, do this, do that. What do you, and I would ask him, what do you think about this? And he was an essential part of not only me helping people in the county, but also keeping me safe because of a lot of the things I get to do in the county. So God bless you, Wade. I hope to see you again. And that's my story.
My name is Jonathan. That's just such a beautiful picture where lovely Monica. Love all you beautiful people. I mean, I'm a bit out of practice speaking in public. Right, it's been about 5 years. So I typically speak in extemporaneous, but I wrote a poem for Wade and I'd love to share it with you all. I haven't really read it out loud, it always sounds better when you read it to yourself, so let's see how this goes. Wade laughter, you simply were extraordinary. Beyond ordinary, far out, a real human, love. You love teaching with words, but your real teaching was in action, in life, in the day-to-day, and showing up. Wade, you lived a story life, forward cut. I knew you best in those Nevada County cannabis rabble days, clandestine rebels meeting in the open, saddling up to speak at the supervisor's chambers, a small, determined group of people, throwing rocks in ponds and waiting for waves, and ripples became a movement, a total tidal change. Every time, everywhere, in the haven, down on the ground, at the Holbrook, in this office or that, at the boardroom, elected chambers and backyards, kitchen tables and long car rides, waved, you would drop wisdom, compassion, and often heartfelt tremors. Real passion, real love. You cared about the earth and the land, the soil, all the critters, large and small, especially the small microscopic things. Even all of us, brothers and sisters, you so very much love the plant, marijuana, the medicine, and all the sick people it lifted. The words are bouncing around on the pages I shared. Wade, you taught by being authentic. You were what you believed, you walked your talk, suspenders and all. You got your hands dirty, those mechanics' fingers. You weren't perfect, none of us are, but you did pretend, a real human. Your way was an invitation, a conversation. Gentle eyes listen behind big plastic frames, a community. Let's come to an understanding, see how there's a place for every plant in the garden. Enemies can become friends. Let's have tea and talk about it. And enemies became friends, strangers became family, and compassion works, sweet stuff. Wade, you were one of those original hippies. A natural man, spirited, foolishly loving, always a smile behind all that hair, a dapper hat, knew in medicine ways, loved to bring people together, rambled articulately, lived the journey, wasn't afraid of the end, always taught us to be kind and to smoke it too. Thanks for all your inspiration, friend. It was an honor to walk beside you, a pleasure to sit across from you, a joy to witness your gifts, and a privilege to share some of this love with you. Welcome back to the Grand Beyond.
Please inhale and keep standing up. Lift your arms up high. Beautiful. Now please come sitting down and begin wiggling and stretching as I speak. It's hard sitting so long, isn't it? Even though this is one of the people you so deeply love, who's touched our lives right to the core. Jonathan is going to introduce me to Wade. And the whole meeting Wade, I would listen to my pants every day. And Wade gave me a remedy that absolutely stopped that problem. It was kind of sad that he had made. So I thank you, Jonathan, for not being in the book. I think it is. So it changed. Wade was one of the most remarkable people I have ever had the honor of meeting. And I can see why this amazing woman, Monica, was married him. She was just as remarkable. As I lived in Wade's home for a year and a half, last year and a half ago. You got to see his compassion, his brilliance, his humor. We cried together, we laughed together, we planned to teach together. It was amazing getting to know this man. He's remarkable in so many different ways. I've given maybe 10,000 acupressure sessions in my life. It's one of the things I do. And Wade was one of the most unique people I've ever met. And that he could feel from head to toe. If I touched one point on him, he could feel other points in the body that were connected to that point. And it makes, you're not wiggling and waving. It's going to get bored unless you move around a little bit. Move your legs, move your arm, keep moving, don't keep like move. I want to see some movement here. Wade was into being true to himself, comfortable regardless of what that might cost. He was a man of incredible integrity. Wade not only had his gift of being right up until the end, right before he died, he could feel from head to toe. Most of us are so numb compared to Wade. It was amazing to me watching this guy 3 days before death, still able to feel his whole body. And his sensitivity was remarkable. And another remarkable thing that I'm sure any of you have met him know about him was that he was in the present moment. More than anybody I've ever met, probably. When I first met him, he'd been suffering with his cancer, terrible pain. And he didn't talk about the terrible things that had happened prior to our meeting, or the things that happened yesterday that was hard. That was not part of his vocabulary. He didn't talk about these terrible things that might happen in the future. We knew that things were not going to go well with the cancer that he had, but that wasn't where his attention. He was in the present moment. And I saw him with so many people, not only people, but his animals with him every moment. The cats and dogs wanted to be around Wade. I wonder why. He had a spirit that anybody wanted to be around. I just felt so lucky to know this man. The depth and the beauty and the kindness was so remarkable. And his wife, Monica, took better care of him than I've ever seen any better care of him than a human being. She was with him night and day. Do you know how hard it is to be a caregiver? Especially with somebody who pushes your buttons like me. That was not easy. And she did it with such amazing intelligence and creativity. And I can't believe the depth of her hearing. I spent 11 years in other countries studying traditional healers mostly. And I saw people dying a lot. And I saw a lot of caregiving. And none better than what Monica gave to Wade. It was just absolutely incredible. So I hope you give this a hug and deep appreciation to the service and better. Thank you so much for being Wade's friend. It's just a delight being with you.
Good afternoon, everybody. But you don't know me here in the room. My name is Richard Miller from Americans for Safe Access. One of the largest organizations for cannabis here in the state of California and actually in the United States. It's a patient-driven organization. And Wade did a lot of work for that organization over the years. He did a lot of education. He reached out to help a lot of patients. I'm very thankful to him. I've known him about 10 years. Met him here in the county when the regulations for cannabis was coming out. I was from Placer County, having the same difficulties in that county. We still do not have access in that county. Wade was instrumental in this county by helping that county. And like I said, he has helped many patients. And personally, I have worked with him to help those patients get access to the medicine they need. I am very thankful for that. I am very thankful for you and what you've done, Monica, and taking care of him. I'm honored to have known him and very thankful for his compassion, his empathy. And as all of us are here today, he has touched all our lives. He's a part of our hearts. And it's our due diligence to move his memory forward and never forget him. I know I never will. And I ask you to carry his mission forward educate people, get them to understand the importance of medical cannabis and what it can do, because it does change lives. Once again, I am very thankful and honored to be accepted here, to be here in your presence, and I'm thankful for what you did. And I'm blessed to know him, and I look forward to the days when I can see him, because I know he's up there flying with the doves of peace. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
We have a couple more people, and then I want everybody to know that even once the program is finished, this circles area here will still be available for people to continue to share stories throughout the reception.
Good afternoon, Mark Johnson. 10 years ago, I had great pleasure to meet many of you, beautiful ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen, in our fight against abortion. During our fight, they were given the components of cannabis 3 minutes to speak. I would say my spiel and immediately walk off, enraged. Wade would show on my shoulder and say, "Hey, you know, I mean, you talk me out." He was the only guy that I ever listened to in my life, the only mentor I listened to, that I listened to, and I still listen to him. I still listen to him. One quit. We were at Monica's house, my wife and I. Swami was there. A group of Buddhist monks were there. We were having a party. They invited us. And we're going out of town. So we stopped by a previous to the party. We're sitting around in the gazebo, and I'm looking at Wade, and right behind Wade, there's a large patch of opium poppies. You know, I mean, beautiful, beautiful opium poppies. And I looked him in the eye, and I said, "Wade, are those opium poppies?" He said, "Well, yes, they are, Mark." And I said, "Well, have you ever thought about lancing them? You know, get the gun. Have you ever thought about lancing them?" And he looked at me and said, "That would be illegal." End of the conversation. That's my favorite story. Now, I have one plea. Let us call on Wade by taking care of Monica. This, not thinking about Monica. I mean, he's no see. If we need something, have some spare time, and you think about something, give Monica a call. Go to 1579, help her out. She needs it now. And I thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say after that. My name is Gonzalez, and it is such an honor and a pleasure to get to be here today. I only ever got to spend maybe like a full 24 hours in Wade's physical presence, but I can't tell you how many hours I spent online with him and this group called the Veterans Action Council that does amazing, incredible, very dedicated, very thorough, very behind the scenes, like in places where you wouldn't dream to think people would be talking about this stuff, type of work and effort for veterans and active duty service members. And for me, when I met the group, it was right around 2021 or 2022, sometime there. And I myself have been separated from the United States Marine Corps. I served from 2015 to 2020, and I was administratively separated out in early 2020 because after having been rehabilitated from alcohol, while struggling with postpartum depression, I made the choice to use cannabis during off work hours, but to help heal some of that. And I was, my work performance was improving and things were getting better, but that's not how the Marine Corps and that's not how our government looks at it. And I know everybody in this room gets that. But I came out of there a new mom with a deeply broken self-identity and just so much shame for my time in service that to meet this group of guys and girls who were talking about this and doing this work, to get to know each of you guys individually, to get to know your service, to get to spend that full 24 hours that I got to spend with Wade. I got to just sit there and hear about his time in the Navy and how he came to be the guy that you guys all know him as. The father of my children also served in the Navy, and my great grandfather served in the Navy, and my family goes back to having been here in California since 1774, and Wade's presence in all of that, to get to witness what he did for you guys as in your guys' community. The amount of shame for the family that I come from, who can't openly smoke cannabis, but has used it my entire life because of stigma and whatnot. Witnessing Wade and all of his work, I finally found confidence in myself to be able to apply for a dispensary application. That application is in Petaluma, and I want that place. I don't care. My favorite quote from Wade was that we didn't legalize anything, we only commercialized it. And I don't want to do that. People deserve community third spaces to facilitate everything that Wade was about. And I just wanted to let you guys know that this is also beautiful. And Wade's presence is a gift of like no freaking other. Thank you guys for letting me be here with you.
So the way I know is primarily and always a seeker, a guy who looks for truth, the beauty and interesting things, interesting people, kind people. And it's great to see so many people that he found in the phase of his life where he met so many people in the healing community, the cultivating community, his political work that you guys have talked about. That's really great. I wanted to talk about what the Wade I know, which was the Wade as mechanic for the Green Tortoise. He was a great mechanic and a great leader of people as the Green Tortoise. He was responsible for a lot of what the Green Tortoise was and was able to do, which was just a hell of a lot of fun and a great way for a lot of people to see a better side of the country and a better side of our land. Wade Laughter cut a big swath. You know, you didn't wonder who was in charge around there. It was Wade, whether he was at the top of the company, which he wasn't the owner, but he was in a lot of ways the most important guy. As somebody I was talking about this with just yesterday, who can't be here regrettably, but sends his love, Steve Spar, told me, you know, the thing I counted on is I could always come there and Wade had got the bus fixed and ready to go, and it could go out that night, no matter how bad the problem was. He was incredible, a brilliant guy at that, and brilliant and incredibly hardworking. The way, one of the things I remember about him is he also had a flair for the theatrical and the sort of projecting his power. And one day I came to the little ghetto shop that we had, and there was some kind of a power play going on the street with local folks squealing tires and yelling stuff. And Wade was standing out there with a giant broadsword, about 4 feet long. Walked up and they said, "Wade, what's with the sword?" It was just a theatrical sword. It was huge. And he said, "I'm just letting them know we're as crazy as they are." Wade could really fill a room and fill a company and fill a bus. And so I mostly saw him as a mechanic. You know, he could drive, but he got stuck in the shop most of the time because of his skill, I think, and because he was the guy that could do it. So anyway, I miss Wade. I know you all do too. So thank you.
Hello, everybody. for the sake of time, I wrote this down because those who know me know, like, oh gosh, here we go. But I wrote this down so I could be succinct, but in the sake of time, I'm gonna improvise it even shorter. Because I know that we have a lot of people who want to speak. We've been here honoring our friend for a while. And I just want to share my gratitude for everybody that's here. What I haven't seen in years, everybody who's here present in the moment. I love you all. I'm really grateful. And it really hits to what I wanted to say about my friend, Wade, which was, we used to talk a lot as friends. And he, you know, we talk about goofy stuff like friends do. We talk about things that are private and not to be shared. We would talk about life in general. And one of the things that I think you would be okay with me sharing was some of his goals. And we used to talk about what do we want out of life. And he really broke it down a couple times with me is his drive to help, his drive for compassion, his drive to show other people that suffering should be valued in the sense that if we can't address it, we should. He wanted that to be his legacy. He wanted to be remembered. And as I was writing that out, I was like, well, that sounds like the opposite of selfless. That sounds like ego. It wasn't that. It wasn't a legacy to be remembered for his name on a plaque or his face on a t-shirt. It was remembered in the lessons of how people's experience mattered. The lesson of how suffering that we can impact is all of our responsibilities. The lesson that no matter who you are or what your situation, we all have the right to experience the days we get allotted to us as comfortably as we can. And if suffering can be alleviated, we have a responsibility to address it. And, you know, there was this quote that I've been thinking about when I've been thinking of it is written somewhere in here. But it was essentially, you know, when someone passes away, that might mean that they're not alive, but it doesn't mean that they no longer exist. And I've been thinking a lot about what it means for my friend Wade and his ongoing existence. What does that look like? What do all these shared experiences that we're trying to articulate up here mean? We all experience something. We all experience something. We're trying to use the word presence. We've used the word good listener. We've used the word non-judgmental. We've used the word empathy. What is that experience that we're trying to boil down that impacted us? And then what does that mean going forward from Wade's memory? This is what I've been thinking. Because that's something, there's something there, there's a lesson there that presence without expectation holds power. That sometimes you can change an entire community by just being willing. You don't have to have the answers. Wade didn't have the answers often. He had the desire to be present with not having the answers and say, hey, if there's anything we can do, we're going to do it. So to me, when I think about my friend and I think about his ongoing existence, that's the filter I want to see my life. That's the decisions way I make decisions, the way I interact with people, whether I'm tired, whether I'm hungry, whether things didn't go well that day, whether I'm stressed or concerned about my family. That's the filter I want my interaction with the world to go through. And it's made me really feel that my capacity our capacity, anyone's capacity to enjoy life, enjoy your life is directly related to our capacity to be present enough to experience it. Not distracted. Not lost. Not wondering what people think of me or what they're saying over there. The only thing I can do to have a good life is to not miss it. By being present. For some people, like Wade, that came naturally, and I'm convinced that's what we experience. And look at the impact it has. Ongoing, I really want to make sure that I honor my friend Wade, and that we honor him by recognizing that being a good person isn't having all the answers, isn't knowing the right thing to say all the time, isn't solving the world's problems. It's simply being present enough to know, let the people know around you that they matter and not missing opportunities to put little positive drops in the bucket. So thank you all for being here. I hope we're all present now in this forum room, hours in a chair. We're all feeling it, and we're here because this person is special to us. So feel that now. Feel the chair. I'm sure you do. Feel your feet. Feel your breath coming in and out. See the room. We're here. Be present with it. And help me honor my friend by taking that out with you out of this room. And practicing, because it's a skill. Just simply being present in the moment. Not worried about regret in the past. Not obsessed about anxiety in our future. Because if we feel right now, and I know I'm going long, but do me a favor, if you are comfortable, just close your eyes. Feel your feet. Feel your breath come in. Be only right here, right now. You hear my voice coming, you hear it leaving. Right now, I know my friend Wade would want you to know that everything is okay. Everything is okay. We're in a room full of amazing people sharing an amazing experience. Right now, we're present in that room. Nothing else is happening but what's happening in this room right now. I love you all. I really hope that we can take some of the lesson Wade taught us about how powerful simply being present can be is, and how much it can impact everyone in our community. This is the only way that we are able to recognize moments where we can make the world a little better. Well, yes.
Definitely on this clear in closing of the open microphone.
All right, this is from Fred Gardner. I got it. And of course, he would be remiss if he was not heard. So what I'd say if I was there. When Harlequin was first identified as a CBD-rich strain, Wade was growing it, and what I remember was a mobile home attached to a very small house at the bottom of Potrero Hill. 80 Mississippi Street, 2008 or 2009. He was technically very skilled. He used to drive a green tortoise bus, the counterculture's alternative to Greyhound, and made a decent wage because he could repair the bus when it broke down. He was a sailor, and he had a circle of friends from the San Francisco Boat Club, which now has a fresh coat of paint and is part of the Chase Center waterfront. He told me he had a rowboat, and we had a date to take it out into the bay on a calm day, which never happened. His wide range of interests include baseball, and once we went to a day game. We had good seats, but the Giants lost. Hooking up with Monica was the best thing that ever happened to him, he told me. When he was first living with her in the Richmond district, and after finding their arable land in Nevada City, he seemed to be really fulfilled. I can't say that about many men or women from my age group. Also, not many men are truly gentle the way that Wade was. Wade was devoted to building the medical marijuana movement. He was my ally in establishing Project CBD and was a great source for O'Shaughnessy's, the journal I produced for a pro-cannabis doctors group. He was a serious political organizer. This is how we covered the plant exchange he helped organize back in April 2014 with Patty Smith and Brad Paysheimer. Publicized only by word of mouth and a small flyer included with purchases at local nursery stores, the quote-unquote plant exchange drew 130 medical marijuana growers and patients to an old community center in the town of North San Juan. It went off without a hitch. The people who came were Nevada County's mom and pop growers whose median age looked about 50. The donation of $10 to $15 per plant was encouraged to fund the local initiative campaign. The activists hoped to override a county ordinance severely limiting cultivation. 10 people bought starter plants to add those being given away. The plants to be given away had all been tagged with abbreviations. They were listed on a whiteboard and their characteristics were explained to the attentive standing room only crowd by Brad Paysheimer. Most were clones of the original ACDC plant, clones of Medical Haze, and Harlequin were also distributed, as were some high THC clones. Smith warned the progressive growers that ACDC was fragile. The branches had to be raised. Even in the clone stages, you had to stake it, she said. But even though it is a low producer, the medicine it produces is invaluable. The turnover was heavier than expected, and the organizers announced a 3-plant maximum. Nobody grumbled. A man whose teenage son had epilepsy asked if some ACDC clones could be set aside for him in case there was a run on them. People formed a line in the porch outside the building and circled back into selected their plants. It took less than half an hour for close to 400 plants to get picked up and carried off. People lingered in the parking lot afterwards to chit-chat. And this is what Wade wrote after attending a meeting in California Medical Board in 2018. In the years I've worked to provide the best possible version of cannabis therapies to the members of our not-for-profit Mutual Benefits Association, the percentage of those members who inhale cannabis as medicine has dropped to almost zero. The few that still use cannabis that way are all younger veterans. All expense paid trips to the Middle East our government has offered since 2003. Every other member of the House of Harlequin uses oils, tinctures, topical creams, and suppositories. We see benefit in an incredible range of conditions that mirror the conditions listed by Russo as endocannabinoid deficiency syndromes. The real trick in cannabis as medicine is finding the sweet spot that exists when the type of cannabis, the method of ingesting into the body, and the dose allows the patient to enjoy life. While watching the medical board hearing, I realized I have more practical experience with cannabis as medicine than all the doctors on the medical board put together. This is heartbreaking to me. California's medical board serves as an example to such boards across the country. Here in California, we have more than 20 years experience in using cannabis as medicine. Where are those clinicians with that experience and why are they not on this board? Whenever you're talking cannabis and kids, I cannot help but think of cases of pediatric epilepsy, where kids are given all kinds of pharmaceutical drugs to control seizures and have side effects like rage, depression, social withdrawal, and addiction that are accepted as needed quote-unquote help control to the seizures. And then to see them come out of their drug-induced shell and become seemingly healthy kids whose seizures are decreased or controlled with plant medicine is a miracle to me. Our kids with epidermolysis bullosa, EB, where the skin sloughs off. Medical answers is opioids and topical ketamine, both of which only help with the pain and do nothing to help the healing of the skin. We see dramatic results with properly prepared tropical cream that alleviates the pain and helps the skin to heal. EB is a genetic condition of So cannabis does not heal the underlying cause of the often fatal illness, but the families being helped are very certain that their child is much more comfortable and the skin does in fact heal. After watching the April 20th meeting of the California Medical Board, I feel a need to speak up because there is so much misleading and incomplete and outright false information about cannabis as medicine. The doctors I know who are willing to work with their patients in exploring that cannabis might be able to do for those patients are in fact brave pioneers in the face of the medical establishment and the drug warriors who cling to the lies about the dangers of cannabis. I wish to offer a huge thanks to the men and women who have fought for years to bring this culture and government out of the darkness of lies and into the truth of cannabis as medicine. I called Wade for a comment after reading an advisory from the U.S. Department of Agriculture warning the harlequin bugs damages collards, cabbage, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, cauliflower, horseradish, arugula, and other popular mustard crops. Wade, the breeder of CBD-rich cannabis cultivar that was named Harlequin, commented, I identified these bugs in our garden. There were so many, I looked them up. Thankfully, they did not seem to like cannabis. The headline said, Harlequin bugs don't bug Harlequin here. That was from Fred last month.
Wow. Wow, I feel so full, and I'm sure all of you do, and I'm so grateful that you're all still here. I know it's very hot, but it's hotter outside. We are going to close this with a very, very special video recording that was put together by Wade's dear community and friends at Hash Church. Thank you, Ed and Marcus, for making this happen. Hopefully, we can technologically make it happen. I want everybody to know that there is a reception that will take place in the other rooms after the video plays. Please take a chair with you if you would like to sit in the other space.
Open it.
There we go.
Open it.
And we are going to give a go.
It's on the other.
And this is a really special send-off that we're so grateful for because it is some words to all of us from Wade himself.
Where?
So back to those guidelines. If we all comply.
One second.
Instruction.
I just want to say a few more words while we get the tech figured out on the video. For everybody who's listening online, Wade had a tremendous online presence while he was sick and even before then. And there are people all over the world who know and love Wade, and we're really, really grateful to be able to participate and see this today. And so I want to just thank everybody for being here in person and for sharing the words that you did. It means so much to so many people that are here and far from here. And so with that, I give you our dear friend, Wade.
Culture is a verb. It's an action word. One can feel or another person's situation. And that's a beautiful thing. That's how you grow up with us. That's how you understanding of who we are and compassion comes into play. So, the second one, another person. Compassion is a word. you really are.
Well,
'Cause
I
there's
guess
nature
I guess I
took the
fucked
time
that
to
up, guys.
create
I don't know why, but
version of the human being.
and I
And
don't
like
even know
any
where it's
other,
playing right
there's
now.
an
All I
8
can hear is
billion.
it. There we go. I just turned it off. I couldn't hear theirs, so I tried to play one here. I'm gonna try it again because I really think it's important to hear. But I couldn't go into the audio and make sure that it was sharing the audio because the minute it shared the screen, it took over the entire Zoom and wouldn't show me anything. So I'm gonna try and figure this out really quickly because I've muted their mic now, so we can't hear anything until Maggie goes and unmutes that mic. It should be sharing. It should be sharing. Like it's tough to enter full screen, share audio, share entire desktop, advance. I don't see share audio, otherwise I would click it, but that's the problem. It's not sharing the audio automatically, which it almost always does. And of course now it's not going to. But we're going to try and figure this out for everyone watching. Appreciate your patience with me. In chat. Yeah, I'm not going to figure this out. So I guess. Oh, there's Maggie.
So good. So we're grateful. I think it was about since position to people on the right. And I had to do what was servers the people who are in relationship to where I was who had business or wellness or real estate, whatever. One of the little shows that I come to is deep truth. There's some of the little shows that there's sort of defining, and then there's others that are defining, and there's a deep truth. And I remember this one. Yes. What we have in life, the situation that we have in the life right now. It's a situation where we're growing, trying to fulfill, and I'm surrounded by people who have that dream, who have every and to even really there's nothing wrong with that. And all these are true. We're writing you what you want from it. And I'm just here to testify to the idea that you're not always speaking what you want to do. Your kids are always trying to remember roots. The only constant is change. And that's really true. So it's a part of non-organic religion. It's one of the paths of meditation. It was to grow into moment. So since it's charity and we're looking at the testimony today, I would remind all of you to take the time to recognize that you are with respect and love, really worthy of all the respect of your family. But we're not. You're with the love and respect for yourself, for even being wrong, for giving this as a feeling that is there when you there is living that person.
It's just you, they're not proving anything. Well, thinking of where the way looks, maybe you're going to express, which might help you to a better. So there's an act of loving kindness. With that, it would be to take a moment, maybe every day, or really take a calendar, you know. Take a minute to appreciate you. Take a moment to appreciate you. I can't even begin to express how much Monica has went through me over the last 4 years. In the past, there were pretty tired, I'd say. And I'd love to have it. So that.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Hash Church community. That is where those video clips were from. Thank you all. Please enjoy the reception. You are loved. We love you all. We're so grateful. So grateful.
Smoke two joints. So that's what he explained out there. I wasn't told to play here, but I will do that now.
Oops, I'm just going to mute them out and we're going to finish this off while they're hugging and sharing love with one another with a little puff with Brian. Thank you. Thank you. Much love. I'm going to share a puff with Brian and Colin. Got the flavors ready to go. That was beautiful. Nice to see celebration for Wade. For those of you that missed a lot of what Wade was saying in those last little bits, I'm going to edit the actual video. I mucked up. I tried to share that video and realized that I didn't share the sound, so you guys weren't hearing anything. But I have a good copy of it, thanks to Ed, our intern, who put that together. And thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Maggie. That's awesome. And so, yeah, we're gonna edit that video in for the parts that you guys missed and didn't hear. But great job, Maggie. Great job, Etienne. That was beautiful. It was really nice to hear. This one's for you, Wade.
Yeah, we'll all miss Wade so much. It was such an honor to have him.
Absolutely. Just thanking Maggie. She's going to sign off. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And we're going to sign off as well because we have got to gather again in less than, well, I guess just over 12 hours, actually. I guess we'll be hooking up at 9 a.m. PST tomorrow morning for a little hash church, and we'll discuss Wade's celebration of life. I'm going to go try and spend a couple hours with my wife right now because this was actually a good opportunity for that. So we'll talk to you guys later. Much love to Wade and to everyone that was a part of the event today.